For years, I had a potato chip bag glued to my hand, and those were hundreds and hundreds of bags. And scary part was that when one bag was finished, then magically the next day a new one would appear. And we've all been there, struggling with food, wanting this big change in our lives, and knowing that the bad habits that we have been there most of our lives. And remember the part most of our lives, because that will be very important later in the video. 4 years ago, when I finally said no more potato chips, I was so proud of myself, because I knew that the technique I'm going to use is going to work. I felt it, like, okay, this is the end, that finally no more potato chips. And I was tracking my progress in the app. I was super consistent in that. But I became quite ambitious, and that was a big mistake, because I wanted to stop sweets, junk foods, fast foods, all of them delicious foods that I was eating every evening after work. I thought that I can easily add them to the list. I can use the same technique that I used for potato chips to those items, and I can stop them all at once. And that was a huge mistake. That didn't work. I failed miserably. I felt that my brain is overwhelmed with all of those restrictions, and I could not just stop the pleasure that I had from food that I have been cultivating for years. And I decided, okay, I need to make it smart. The way that I'm going to stop my bad habits, it needs to be gradual. It cannot be immediately everything all at once, because I was eating those crazy delicious foods for almost 19 years. That's a huge part of my life. So I cannot stop it just immediately, everything cold turkey. So as of that moment, I decided I just stick to the potato chips. I continue with all of my other habits, but just potato chips I'm not allowed to eat. That was my restriction, that was my method. And it worked, because just by not eating potato chips, I was eating less of the sweets in the evenings. I was not adding so many different flavors that I loved in the past. I was just eating a little bit, because somehow I felt that I don't need that anymore. Because without the chips, I don't need all the other sources of my pleasure, because chips were my main happiness. An interesting thing happened 4 months after I quit potato chips, because over those 4 months, I did plenty of research. I did lots of readings about addictions, about food habits, about food industry, and that actually gave me a knowledge and self-confidence that I can actually quit more of the foods that are not good for me, and I'll be able to stick to that. And the next food item that I noticed that I'm eating almost every day, and it's everywhere in my life, was chocolate. I knew that I cannot replace missing chips with chocolate now, so I decided no more chocolate. And that was honestly the second hardest thing to quit after chips, because chocolate is everywhere for Christmas, Easter, birthdays, at the office. Everybody brings chocolate to the office, and it was so crazy to see how it is everywhere in our lives. And then first I quit chips, 4 months later chocolate, and then I was just focusing on the chocolate at that point, because I knew that chips were not a problem anymore. The food noise distracting me to eat chips was slowly fading away. It was quiet, but then the food noise about the chocolate started to appear. So I tackled that one, and it worked. Again, it worked. The lesson that I've learned from quitting all of those foods gradually is that when you have a habit of eating foods that you know that they are not good for you, you cannot just quit cold turkey, everything all at once. For some people it might work, That's perfect. I congratulate you on the strong will that you have when you can stop all of the sugar, junk food, everything all at once. That's amazing. But for some people, and for me, I could not do it. I had to gradually implement the changes. And I know it's painful to see how slowly you can progress. But over the years, you'll see it's so much better because it gives you confidence that you had your first win with, let's say, in my example, potato chips. And then you have the confidence, you have the research, you have the knowledge to go to the next step. And you know that it will work because you had success from the previous one. You didn't fail. You are not a loser. You know that this worked. So you're going to win the second battle, second goal, because you have the experience. And then you can implement another one and another one. Just be patient. I know it's painfully slow to see this progress, but in my opinion, this is the best way if you have been struggling with food for most of your life.